for the love of God, don't click off just because there's a watermark, okay? I put actual effort into this video, I think. I'm recording this before I actually started editing, so hopefully I actually put effort into this video. Let's hope. On December 14th, 2010, a video of a man playing with Ho-Ho Monster toys was released on YouTube. And this one video started a series that went on for over 100 episodes and is still going on today. The series was called and is called Monster Island Buddies. I will be reviewing each episode from 1 to 100 and doing like a rundown of the plot of each episode and shit like that. Alright, so in the first episode, it starts with Godzilla and Rodan. They're playing cards and shit, they're gambling. And Rodan says he's gonna ask Mothra on a date. But Mothra's dating King Ghidorah. Even though in the movies, Mothra and King Ghidorah they've always been enemies. They've always hated each other. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyways, Rodan is so devastated that he decides to become trans to distract himself from the pain.
I'm gonna cut off my own dick to distract me from the pain! Fuck!
Yeah, Godzilla has a peanut allergy. Pretty pathetic, I'm not gonna lie. Imagine, how could someone be allergic to fucking peanuts? How? Rodan goes over to Mothra's place to see if it's true, and his worst fears are realized. It's true. And since King Ghidorah has 3 heads,
every time they make love, it's an orgy! Dutch!
Yeah, I'd say this is a good pilot for the episode because it introduces one of the main romances, I guess. Introduces to the characters, some of the characters. So yeah, this episode getting an 8 out of 10 because it's funny as fuck. Alright, so not much happens in this episode. This episode is a parody of Hoarders. Rodan's friends are worried about Rodan because he's depressed and his house is a mess. The reason why he's depressed is because, well, Mothra is taken. Godzilla can't find the bathroom. Yeah, so not much really happened in that episode, but it did have a bit of character building, you know what I mean? Shows, I don't know what it fucking shows, but it's a good episode. 6 out of 10. Alright, so in this episode, it's Christmas. Godzilla, Jet Jaguar, and the spiky guy are singing Christmas songs. Rodan, he's decorating the Christmas tree with Mothra. Then King Ghidorah shows up. Says that he's got to go visit his parents for Christmas. King Ghidorah's middle head is the Geo, and that's funny to me. Rodan, he just starts crashing out at his friends who were singing. Says he hates Christmas. Godzilla, he has a stepson. Stepson. And then they continue to sing. That's kind of the episode. This episode was kind of mid. But like nothing much really happened. So like 5 out of 10. So yeah. I'm eating popcorn right now, just so you know. Yeah, so episode 4 is a parody of something. I don't know what it's a parody of, but I know it's a parody. Godzilla is like a private investigator and Mothra needs his help. Mothra's egg has been stolen and she needs Godzilla's help. She needs him to be his dick.
I'll be your dick.
Moving on. So, Godzilla gathers suspects. King Ghidorah, Tuckdan, Jet Jaguar, and the spiky guy. Godzilla fucking dies. Turns out it's all a book written by Rodan. Episode is just another silly filler episode, which that's kind of what the first few episodes are, is just filler. But yeah, this episode gets like a 7 out of 10 just because it's funny. Alright, so in episode 5, Godzilla, Jet Jaguar, and Rodan are in a band playing nostalgic music you'd hear in like old toy reviews back in 2014. Gigan wants to join, but the band is full, and they say he's not metal enough for their toy review music. And there's an event called the Battle of the Bands coming up. This will happen later in the show. Gigan returns in his Final Wars version, and he's now metal, both literally and figuratively. Although this episode is another filler, it does set up, like, Battle of the Bands, that whole thing, which happens way later on in the show, and that's just kind of funny to me. But other than that, this episode gets like a 5 out of 10. It's not the funniest, but it's alright. Alright, so in episode 6, Godzilla takes his stepson to the theater, along with Rodan. And Godzilla, he doesn't seem to like his kid from his first marriage.
Because we don't talk about him. We don't talk about him.
This will be explained later on. And the movie they're watching is Gamera, Guardian of the Universe. That's not what it's called, but Gamera called himself that, so I'm gonna call it that.
Apparently, you didn't count on tangling with Gamera, the Guardian of the Universe.
Godzilla has some history with Gamera. They went to college together, so... And Godzilla, he doesn't want to stick around and watch the movie, so he just leaves and gets drunk. So something I like about this episode is that it sets up, like, this little rivalry between Godzilla and Gamera, and it hints at a backstory, their backstory. Also hints at Godzilla's previous marriage and his biological son. So this episode gets a 7 out of 10. It's funny, and it hinted at a backstory. Alright, so in this episode, Rodan and Godzilla are at the bar. Godzilla's drunk and he's vomiting, because he's fucking drunk, what do you expect? Gamera shows up with 2 whores and rubs his success on his fucking face. He also sheds a little more light on why they don't like each other, why they're enemies. Because Godzilla got Gamera expelled from college. And then Rodan sees Ghidorah at the bar with another girl. So yeah, that's the episode. This episode expanded on Godzilla and Gamera's backstory. So 7 out of 10. This episode was silly and funny, but it also expanded on backstory and shit. I'm tired as fuck right now, I just woke up. Alright, so in episode 8, Jet Jaguar is in Las Vegas. He gambles $1 and loses. If he loses, what do you expect? It's gambling. The house always wins, you know what I mean? So he heads back to his hotel room, and our Clanker decides to get a hooker over. The hooker's a pile of garbage. I'm not even joking, it's a pile of garbage.
What? We're flying to Philadelphia! Oh, hell no! She's beautiful!
And he fucks the garbage and tries to marry it. This episode is silly fun, 7 out of 10. This episode was honestly enjoyable, funny too. Alright, so in this episode, we get a flashback to Godzilla's college days. Back when he was friends with Gamera. They're both smoking and getting stoned and shit, you know what I mean? Then they get found by the staff, but a fucking time machine appears and saves Godzilla, but not Gamera.
Gamera, you're in trouble now, and say goodbye to your college career.
This episode shows what happened and how Godzilla and Gamera started hating each other, and it connects to later episodes. 6 out of 10. It's not funniest, but it's not a bad episode. Alright, so episode 10 is a parody of those shitty drama shows, I think. I don't know. Godzilla and Rodan, they're at Mothra's place, and telling her that Rodan saw King Ghidorah at the bar with another woman. But Mothra tells them that King Ghidorah was with her the night Rodan saw him cheating. Rodan's dumbass saw 3 ponies and thought they were King Ghidorah. Jet Jaguar returns with his wife being the pile of garbage hooker from earlier. Turns out, Ghidorah really is cheating. Ghidorah fucked a pile of garbage every Thursday. And since he got found out, Ghidorah crashes out. Says that he'll kill them in a week. So this episode gets an 8 out of 10. Because it's pretty funny, and it sets up an upcoming conflict. Right, so in episode 11, Godzilla and Rodan are training for their upcoming battle with Ghidorah. They're not very strong. They've become weak over time. So Space Godzilla, he appears and sells him unspecified liquid that will make him stronger. And Godzilla's father told him to never take candy from strangers, but he never said not to take unspecified liquid from strangers. So Godzilla he got drugged. This episode is funny, and I like the clips of them training, so 8 out of 10. Alright, so in episode 12, Jet Jaguar is walking through a dark parking lot at night, hearing strange noises throughout the parking lot. And suddenly, King Ghidorah pops out and rips him apart. Godzilla and Rodan, they find Jet's remains, and they take his remains to Mechagodzilla in hopes that he can repair him. Mechagodzilla says that in order to repair him, he has to reboot him, which means wiping his memory. This episode isn't the funniest, nor is it too entertaining. 4 out of 10. Alright, episode 13. Rodan and Godzilla finally face King Ghidorah. Rodan goes in for the attack, but gets shot down like a Roblox player when they do a good thing. Godzilla shoots a fireball at King Ghidorah, but it does nothing. King Ghidorah fires electrical beams at Godzilla, doing hella damage to him. Then Godzilla remembers what happened back when he was in college. So he goes to Mechagodzilla for his time machine. He goes back in time to his younger self for help. When they return, the time machine gets destroyed by King Ghidorah. But Rodan, he flies back up and uses his wind power against King Ghidorah. Then, Godzilla and younger Godzilla deliver the killing blow against King Ghidorah, and then Godzilla and Rodan play more cards. Godzilla made his younger self watch over his stepson.
Fuck you, kid.
This episode, it is funny and it connects to previous episodes. 9 out of 10. Alright, so in episode 14, we are introduced to a team that consists of Space Godzilla, Gigan, Megalon, Lindsay Lohan, Mechagodzilla, and Earl. This team is called the Large, Enormous, Sinister, Big, Intelligent, and Nasty Super Beings, or Lesbians for short, led by an unknown monster. The team's main focus is killing Godzilla, but Mechagodzilla wants no part, because he's friends with Godzilla, so Earl switches him back to evil mode. Yeah, that's the episode. The episode is funny. I like the $80 joke, and I like the lesbians joke. It's funny. 7 out of 10. Alright, so episode 15. Episode 15 is meant to be like a news broadcast. Godzilla and Rodan are on the news because they killed Ghidorah, and that kind of makes them celebrities. And Godzilla has the same horrors that Gamera had. That's why I called them horrors, is because they lack loyalty, you know what I mean? Godzilla shit-talks Gamera because Godzilla has surpassed him. And Godzilla is also irresponsible with the risks of having his younger self live in the same time as him. Godzilla's biological son, Minilla, appears and tackles him. Very happy to see him, and Godzilla's very annoyed by I keep burping. And Godzilla's very annoyed by this. Minilla made a boom boom. This episode is funny and it introduces a new character, so 7 out of 10. But it introduces Minilla, so 6 out of 10. Yeah, so episode 16 is nothing too important. It's Minilla going on an Easter egg hunt with Anguirus. This episode is simply filler, and it's not too funny, and it's not too entertaining. 3 out of 10. Alright, so in episode 17, Godzilla has become arrogant and a drug addict. Because of his popularity, he has gained arrogance. Rodan and Jet are mad at him because, well, he's ruining their band and potentially ruining their friendship. Rodan calls him a fucking dick, so Godzilla shoots fire at him because he doesn't take any disrespect. And then they start fighting. At first it's a 1v1, then it's a fucking several v1 when everyone starts attacking Godzilla. So he just leaves all of his friends. And the lesbians, they plan this, and their next operation is called Operation Paradox. This episode, it isn't too funny, but it is entertaining, so 6 out of 10. Alright, so episode 18. Godzilla is at the bar, drinking his pain away with himself. Well, his younger self. He asks his younger self for drugs. He even offers his younger self sex for some drugs. And now that I think about it, wouldn't that technically be considered like incest? Because they're both the same blood, so... No, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Younger Godzilla goes to use the restroom, but gets jumped by 2 monsters from the lesbians' organization. Present Godzilla fades in and out of existence because of younger Godzilla's injuries. This episode is kind of funny, and it sets up something important. 7 out of 10. Okay, so Godzilla goes to Mechagodzilla for help. But Mechagodzilla isn't himself at the moment, and he's building something. Or, well, someone who will appear later on in the show. Earl pops up and tells him that he's pretty much fucked before Mechagodzilla attacks him while something is watching in the background. A fucktastic 4 member comes over to save his ass, and back at the lesbian facility, younger Godzilla is tied up, and the leader of the lesbians eats a sandwich for Phase 4. Back to present Godzilla. He's with Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastic informs him of the paradox and warns him that the universe itself could be destroyed because of this paradox. And the lesbians, they plan to take over Monster Island. So yeah, this episode is pretty funny, and it sets the stake for the next few episodes and shit like that. 8 out of 10. So episode 20. Manila and Spike Prick are at the beach, burying Gigan for some reason. There's sand in Gigan's balls. Rodan is with Mothra. He finally has the courage to confess his love for her. But then Godzilla interrupts him and tells him everything, like about the paradox and all of that. But Rodan assumes he's high and tells him to fuck off. That's pretty much this episode. It's silly filler. 5 out of 10. Alright, so in this episode, they're back at the lesbian organization. They're adding a new member, Titanosaurus. He's spastic, and he even has his own fucking theme song. But he also thinks that the Lindsay Lohan monster is a pile of shit. So, you know, that's the only thing is relatable, you know. Space Godzilla was about to make him leave, but Titanosaurus takes Earl hostage. And he just rips his head off. Imagine dying like that. Killed by some spastic retard that acts like he just snorted 100 pounds worth of cocaine off of the largest tits imaginable.
That's quite bad.
Titanosaurus then tries to find Candy inside of Earl. But Space Godzilla uses power to get rid of him and toss him back to whatever crack den he came from. And there is Candy inside of Earl. This episode is filler, but it's funny as fuck, so 8 out of 10. Yeah, so episode 22. We're back with the news, talking about celebrities that fell from grace, and this celebrity is Godzilla. Godzilla tries to warn them of the paradox, but as expected, they don't take him seriously. Later, Godzilla is living on the streets, homeless, and willing to stomp cities for food. Gamera shows up, and instead of letting the shit he has loaded up in his vocal cords out, he instead offers to help Godzilla, because he knows what it's like falling from grace, and he says he's in rehab. So Gamera invites him to his place, and makes him reenact 2 Girls, 1 Cup in order to stay. Yeah, so this episode is funny. So 7 out of 10. So this episode is kind of like a parody of those comedy shows you'll find on Hulu or some shit. Gamera makes him follow religion so he can beat his drug addiction. He worships a Bro, why can't I speak? He worships a god named Blundergosh. According to Gamera, Blundergosh is the god of monsters. Anyways, Godzilla, he finds an invitation to the lesbian organization. Godzilla remembers his encounter with Earl and realizes that his younger self is at the abandoned warehouse. Meanwhile, the lesbian organization is getting ready for their assault on Monster Island, and they have a new toy to help them, Mecha King Ghidorah. This episode is a bit funny, and it sets up another upcoming conflict. 6 out of 10. Right, so in this episode, the battle for Monster Island has started. Mothra, Rodan, Spikeball, Jet Jaguar, and Manila, and Gigan are staring down Space Godzilla, the average Wednesday fan, Megalon, Anguirus. Look, I'm tired right now. Anguirus goes in for the attack, but Space Godzilla stops him with his telekinesis powers before throwing him at Rodan on some fucking Jedi shit. Mothra uses her lightning powers, but Megalon attacks her, and then Space Godzilla attacks her using the beam shooting out of his giant crystals on his shoulders. Megalon jumps Manila, so he has my respect. And Jet Jaguar, he left because he isn't programmed to fight. Rodan was about to go in for the attack, but Gigan punches him from behind. Anguirus saves Manila from Megalon, and then Titanosaurus comes up behind and punches Space Godzilla over. Rodan thinks he's there to help, but Titanosaurus attacks Rodan, because Titanosaurus. Suddenly, a familiar three-headed alien appears. Clanker King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah fires his fucking beams at the fucking main characters and fucks them up. Jet Jaguar sees this happen in the distance, and the sight of King Ghidorah reawakens his memories. So this episode was a bit funny, and it set up Jet Jaguar's return. 6 out of 10. Alright, so in this episode, Godzilla and Gamera arrive to the lesbian organization warehouse to find Godzilla's younger self. Younger Godzilla tells them that he's the backup plan. If the lesbians' current plan fail, they'll kill him to destroy all of space and time on some fucking Marvel shit. Mechagodzilla arrives and fires his beams at the three, but misses. Younger Godzilla manages to get free from his restraints, allowing him to do a double tail slap with his older self. Mechagodzilla fires a few more beams at the two Godzillas and knocks them over. Suddenly, a time machine appears, and inside the time machine is future Godzilla. Younger Godzilla, he could use that to go back in time, to go back home. But Mechagodzilla destroys that shit, so they do a triple tail slap. Then the future Godzilla, shoots fire at him. Present Godzilla switches Mechagodzilla back to normal, and the leader of the Fantastic Four appears because he could sense the rift in space and time. And he's mad at Godzilla for ruining it even more. And suddenly, the space-time pair of ducks appears and tells them that their universe will be destroyed since, all the fucked up, time machine shit. Mr. Fantastic, or whatever his name is, attaches the time machine antenna to Mechagodzilla and makes him open a wormhole. He tells younger Godzilla to go through the wormhole so he can get back to his timeline. The space-time paradox, they leave, because they fixed it a little bit, but future Godzilla's still there. But the time machine antenna is broken right after that happens. Mechagodzilla warns them that there's a nuclear bomb inside of Mecha King Ghidorah, and that the leader of the lesbians wants to destroy Monster Island. This episode was It wasn't too funny. 5 out of 10. Alright, so Godzilla, Future Godzilla, Gamera, and Mecha Godzilla, and Mr. Fucktastic are searching for Godzilla's friends. Jet Jaguar, who decided to speak in a lower tone like he's Eren Yeager in Season 4, tells them that his friends were taken prisoner. Godzilla tells Jet that Mecha King Ghidorah has a bomb inside of him, and then Mecha King Ghidorah conveniently appears right after he says that. Ghidorah fires his beams at Mechagodzilla, setting off the time machine attached to him. Jet Jaguar tells Godzilla to go save his friends while he goes to fight Ghidorah. Clanker Ghidorah fires a beam at Jet Jaguar, but he leans back and dodges it on like some Matrix shit. And then Clanker Ghidorah, he jumps up and lands on Jet and begins stomping on him and shit. Meanwhile, Future Godzilla finds his friends, but Space Godzilla uses his powers against him. So President Godzilla shoots fire at him. Gamera is currently fighting the average Rent-A-Girlfriend fan. And Megalon comes up behind him from the back, gets him from the back. Godzilla tells Rodan to do a spiky bomb, which involves Rodan picking up Anguirus and dropping him on Megalon and the average Bakudeku shipper. Back with Jet Jaguar punches Clanker Ghidorah, but he spins around and Hail slaps him in the face, knocking him over. He proceeds to shit-talk him while he's down, pissing Jet off. Jet gets back up and punches him in the face. Well, faces. Back with Godzilla. Godzilla's fighting Megalon, but Jet Jaguar comes up behind Megalon and grabs him, and Godzilla does his iconic Hail slide. Gigan is the last one standing, and out of everyone to jump him, it's fucking Manila.
The bad man!
Wait, ow!
Yeah, and then King Ghidorah goes Cyber Psycho and flies up to crash into Monster Island and destroy it, exactly as Destroya planned. Rodan confesses his love before flying towards Ghidorah, giving his life for his friends. Yeah, I just couldn't resist putting this fucking music over the video. I just couldn't. I couldn't resist. The show is so good. Sorry about
All
that,
the
John.
bad
So
monsters
fucking good.
ran off, but I'll hunt them down for this, one by one. Let's just go home. It's over. Rodan's gone, and we can't bring him. We can't. Firepower.
This episode was not too funny, but it was really good. Not gonna lie, 9 out of 10. Alright, episode 27. Jet Jaguar, he's hunting down Megalon to avenge Rodan. He finds him at the river, trying to find peace. But he's gonna send him to a place where peace is harder to find than the One Piece.
Oh, bro.
I don't know why I made a One Piece reference, I've only watched 6 episodes. Jet comes up behind him and punches him over. Jet asks him who the leader of the lesbian organization is. But Megalon doesn't know because the leader kept his identity a secret from them. But that question does not satisfy Jet. But Megalon tells him there is a new monster on Monster Island. His name is Monster X. Megalon thinks he's the leader. But Jet Jaguar picks him up and tosses him into the river. This episode isn't funniest, but it does hint at a new character. Alright, so in episode 28, Godzilla is working with... He's working with the Avengers. I'm not gonna question it. And they're fighting Magneto, or whatever his name is, and the Avengers... They aren't sure about Godzilla being on the team. Yeah, so anyways, while they're fighting Magneto, they all get their asses kicked. So Godzilla, he steps in, he tail slaps him and then shoots his fire breath at him, killing him. But the Avengers are mad at him for killing, but the Avengers have killed many times in the movies. Captain America kills a lot in his movie. So does Iron Man and Thor, and of course, the Hulk. Well, this is probably the comic version of them. They kill in the comics too. And, yeah, so anyways. Godzilla gets kicked out of the Avengers. This episode was kind of funny, and it was entertaining. 6 out of 10. Alright, so episode 29 is just boring filler. There's a small part that reveals King Kong's plan to take over Monster Island, but that's kind of it. There's also a QR code at the end that says, let me get into my voice acting real quick. My internal drive is sending this encoded message. I pray it will be received. I came face to face with the leader of the conspiracy. He calls himself Destroyer. Please, warn one of my friends. One of the monsters is not who you think he is. More to come. This episode is mid, but the hidden message at the end gives it a little boost, so 6 out of 10. Alright, so in episode 30, Godzilla is now working with the Ninja Turtles, despite not being a fucking turtle. Godzilla kills one of their enemies, again, and gets kicked out. Again. And I don't know if the Ninja Turtles kill or not, so I can't really say anything. I mean, I don't think they do. I mean, maybe in the Michael Bay movies, I think. The live-action remakes, they might kill in that, but I don't know. Anyways, Godzilla finds Jet at his apartment, and Jet, he asks for, his help. But Godzilla doesn't want to go back to Monster Island after Rodan's death. QR code. I have no control where I appear next. I found myself in the near future with Destroyer over Godzilla's body. Then I was sent to the past. I saw George Washington. Nice guy. But what I saw in prehistoric times will shock you. More to come. This episode is funny, and it shows how Godzilla is dealing with the loss of Rodan. 7 out of 10. On episode 31, in this episode, Jet is in the desert searching for Monster X, like Luffy looking for the One Piece, except Jet doesn't take it like 1,000 fucking episodes searching for Monster X and finds him in one episode. He fights Monster X because he led the lesbian organization, or so he believes. Monster X says he's from the planet behind Jupiter, Uranus. That's my guess, it's Uranus. Or is it Neptune? Monster X is a Xilient, and he isn't actually Monster X. He serves Monster X, and offers to take Jet to Monster X. When they arrive, Monster X reveals his name.
Kaiser.
He knows what Jet wants and why he wants it, but he did not lead the lesbians, nor the attack on Monster Island. But he sent an agent to Monster Island. This agent was King Ghidorah. He felt his death from across the galaxy, and that's why he's on Earth. He, too, wants revenge. They share an enemy, Destroyer, the monster that led the lesbians. And the monster that was always watching in the background. He wants the world to fall on some Eren Yeager type shit. Kaiser tells Jet that when he kills Destroyer, he must bring his wing to him. While Jet is searching for Destroyer, Megalon, Space Godzilla, and a Valorant player, and Gigan, find him. Now, QR code. I arrived in prehistoric... Oh my gosh, I stuttered. I arrived in prehistoric times and saw Ghidorah. He called himself Des Ghidorah. And I'm not positive, but I think he killed the dinosaurs. I was then warped to the Wild West. I can tell my time travel drive is slowly dying. More soon. This episode was a bit funny, and it introduced some new characters, and did a huge lore dump. 9 out of 10. Alright, episode 32. Godzilla is now working with Batman and Robin. He kills 2 of their villains and gets kicked out again. He killed the Joker. Like, he's doing Batman a huge fucking favor. Jason Todd was right. Joker needs to die. I just needed to say that real quick. Later, he's at the bar, drinking, when a random dude suggests he goes back home to Monster Island. But Godzilla can't do that after what happened with Rodan. The random guy tells Godzilla that one of his friends died too, but came back with fire powers, foreshadowing. He tells him to go back, and that he can't turn his back on his friends, so Godzilla, he goes back home. Kong is trying to take over Monster Island with Baragon and, Titanosaurus. Also, King Caesar appears. Not Caesar King, dumbass. And he has a different voice actor.
Baragon, why you talking like that? That ain't your motherfucking voice.
Also, Baragon, he's just playing a character. He doesn't actually follow King Kong like he's Starscream and Megatron or some shit. Godzilla returns and he jumps Kong.
Oh!
QR code. Just saw the Boston Tea Party, the Titanic, and the Beatles. It occurs to me that all of these historical events I'm witnessing, along my vast scientific knowledge, makes my hard drive quite valuable, should someone stumble upon it. This episode isn't too funny, but it does have foreshadowing, so 7 out of 10. Alright, so this episode is just... It's a Halloween episode, and it's just filler, so I won't talk about it. But there is a QR code, and I'll talk about that. I worry about someone finding my hard drive and learning about what I know. My friends, my secrets, how to build a time machine, and worst of all, how to build a Mechagodzilla. I hope I leap home before my internal battery runs out. This episode gets a 5 out of 10 because it's funny and it has a QR code. Alright, so in episode 34, they're doing a talent show. And by the end of the talent show, Mothra and Godzilla drink together. They get a bit drunk and then they make some cream pie. And Manila, he films it. So yeah, that's pretty much the episode. QR code. I've returned to prehistoric times. My internal battery is dying. Without a source to recharge myself, I fear this is the end. I'll travel to the canyons that will one day be the Monster Island desert. Maybe one day my friends will dig me up. I'm not even going to give a review for this episode because I just couldn't be bothered. Alright, so in episode 35, Jet is running from Space Godzilla, and the other bastards as well. But they get caught. But a familiar voice screams, "Firepower!" Rodan is back and he's hot as fuck. I mean that, like literally, he's on fire. They attack Rodan, but he was unaffected, so he shoots fire at them and they run away. Rodan tells Jet that he doesn't know how he got his powers, and that he can't control his powers. But back on Monster Island, Mothra and Godzilla, they're talking about what happened last night and promise to never talk about it, ever. And then Jet returns with Rodan. Great timing. Manila is in the distance recording, but Kong steals his camera and finds the video of Mothra and Godzilla fucking. This is going to be important later. QR code. I've reached the canyons. My battery is going to die any second. My lifeless body will likely remain here for millions of years, until someone digs me up. I hope that person is a friend. This is Mechagodzilla, signing off. This episode isn't really funny, but sets something up. There's definitely something that's gonna happen between, like, something... I don't know. Fuck you. Eat my balls from the back. I can't speak English right now, so 7 out of 10. Alright, so Mechagodzilla is lost in time and he's lost in space. We already know where he's been because of the QR codes. And millions of years later, he's dug up by the Zillions and brought to Kaiser. This episode's kind of funny just because we get to see dinosaurs fucking. Alright, so in episode 37, a Zillion has brought Godzilla and his friends to Destroya. And they tell him that they know what he is, they know who he is, what he did, all of that. And his response is just,
Fuck you!
Rodan shoots fire at him, but it does nothing. So Destroyer shoots fire back, and it fucks all three of them up. Rodan goes high, while Godzilla does some close range fighting with Destroyer. Rodan does some kamikaze attack on Destroyer. It's fucking crazy. But Destroyer gets back up and fights him in the air, then tosses him to the floor before landing on him and holding him down. Shoots fire at Jet, but Godzilla tackles Destroyer and gets him from behind, but gets thrown off. Mechagodzilla appears for a second, then disappears. The Godzilla on the floor that got thrown off was a Zilliant, and the real Godzilla does a tail slide and knocks him over, and then Rodan does a 1940s Japanese military pilot-style attack, killing him. Jet Jaguar and Rodan take Destroyer's wing and give it to Kaiser. Kaiser tells Rodan that he has Ghidorah energy in him, so they share a bond, and he suggests that he stays, but Rodan says no and heads home. Kaiser will remember that. This episode is funny and it kills off an antagonist. 8 out of 10. Alright, this episode is just a Christmas filler episode. Manila is at the Magic Castle, and everyone else is opening presents. That's it, 4 out of 10. Alright, so in episode 39, Godzilla is paying his scammers, aka the IRS. A few minutes later, all of the people Godzilla worked with previously wants him dead. The Avengers, Batman and Robin, and the Ninja Turtles want him dead. Rodan shoots fire at the Punisher, but the Hulk comes up and jumps him. A missile gets fired at Godzilla, and the Ninja Turtles jump him on some Jujutsu Kaisen shit. But Gamera shows up and saves him, and Rodan goes after the helicopter that shot the missile at Godzilla. Godzilla uses his fire breath and kills the last of them. This episode is funny and entertaining, but it is kind of filler, so 8 out of 10. Alright, so in episode 40, King Caesar, Baragon, Godzilla, and Future Godzilla are playing a board game. But Rodan comes over and tells him that Mothra wants to talk to him, and that he's gonna go ask her out. But when he gets there, he sees Kong, with the camera that recorded Godzilla and Mothra fucking, and Kong shows him that video. Rodan, he's shocked into silence because he's in love with Mothra, and the fact that his best friend would do this to him, it fucks with his head. So Rodan goes to Godzilla and sets off an explosion, fucking Godzilla up. He then does a dive bomb. Godzilla tries to defend his actions, but he can't. Like, shit, I can't even defend his actions. They shoot fire at each other, causing an explosion that kills Mothra. Now that Mothra's dead, Kaiser has plans to rule the planet, because his kind has been at war with the Divine Moths for centuries, maybe even millennia. Mechagodzilla has been remade to serve Kaiser, and this Mechagodzilla shapeshifts into Future Godzilla and goes back into time. So, this episode connects to earlier episodes, and it's also pretty funny, and it's entertaining. So, I would give this episode a 9 out of 10. So this episode, episode 41, it's just an April Fool's video. It's a toy review thing, that's it. This episode is funny but kind of boring, 3 out of 10. Anyways, episode 42. Godzilla absorbed Rodan's energy, so he is dying. Kind of like V after he got that chip or relic thing, whatever it was, I forgot. Godzilla, he's going into nuclear meltdown, and when he dies, it'll cause a huge explosion that'll destroy Monster Island. But Godzilla doesn't believe it, so he points to his future self. How could he die if his future self was right there? Well, in case you don't remember, the future Godzilla is actually the evil Mechagodzilla. So Godzilla fights Clinker Godzilla, but gets pushed over. He gets back up and shoots fire at Clinker Godzilla and does critical damage. Because of the energy he absorbed, his fire breath does more damage. Clinker Godzilla flees. Godzilla realizes that he really is dying and goes to contemplate on a bench. This episode isn't the funniest, but it does have, it connects to the plot, if that makes sense. Episode 43. Godzilla is with Gamera, and Gamera is telling him that he should fulfill his bucket list since he's gonna die soon. Godzilla wants to make sure that his child inherits the throne as king of the monsters, but Manila, he's too retarded to be king of the monsters, so
Godzilla tries to teach him how to shoot fire, but instead, Manila fucking farts instead of shooting fire. Godzilla is getting irritated, but his stepson shows up, and he is much different. He's much taller and he's much more powerful. And he can breathe fire. So Godzilla and his stepson leave to catch up with each other. Manila is sad and goes to sit near Mothra's egg. Clank of Godzilla, he sees the egg in the distance and he goes to report to Kaiser. This episode's I guess, so yeah, 6 out of 10. Alright, so Clanker Godzilla informs Kaiser of the Mothra egg. So Kaiser sends Orga, the fourth wall breaker, and Orga, he returns with a captured Rodan for interrogation. Rodan didn't know Mothra was gonna return, so you know he's happy about that. Kaiser sends Orga to destroy the egg, and Rodan he tries to escape, but he trips and he sees Mechagodzilla's head, so he takes it with him. Meanwhile, Godzilla and his stepson, they're at the bar and talking, but Orga, he walks over. He doesn't really know what he's doing, and he ends up getting jumped by Godzilla's stepson, and then he's just forced to leave. Orga returns to Kaiser, and as expected, Kaiser is pissed. This episode is funny, and it introduces a new character. 8 out of 10. Episode 45. This episode shows Godzilla's childhood. Godzilla, Jet Jaguar, and Rodan, they're hanging out, and Rodan shows them a new friend he made. It's King Ghidorah. How convenient. Godzilla, he wants to beat his ass because, he's an alien. But Jet, he calms him down. And asks Ghidorah why he's on Earth. He says that his father brought him there to take over the world. So Godzilla goes to tell his father. He goes to his father and tells him about Ghidorah, but his father asks why he didn't use his fire breath. Godzilla, he doesn't know how to use his fire breath, so his father just verbally abuses him. So Godzilla, he has daddy issues. Anyways, Godzilla, he heads back and shoots fire at King Ghidorah, making him cry. Godzilla goes back to his father, only to find out that his father got kicked out of the server. This episode is funny, and it expands on Godzilla's backstory. But it's not very entertaining, so 6 out of 10. Episode 46, Rodan. He wants Mothra's egg, but Manila, he won't let him have it. He was told to guard the egg. So Rodan offers a trade. He'll give him Mechagodzilla's head for the egg. So Manila gives him the egg, but Orga and Batra, they show up to destroy the egg. But Manila uses his ultimate attack. He farts. The egg suddenly hatches, and Batra, he's about to shoot a beam at it, but Godzilla's stepson comes up behind Batra and jumps him, but then gets hit by Batra's beam, and then gets jumped by Batra and Orga. Mothra's egg hatches, and a larva Mothra crawls out, and shoots webbing at Orga and Batra. Batra shoots a beam at Mothra, but Rodan jumps in the way and gets hit for her. Godzilla's stepson attacks Batra from behind, again. So Batra leaves, and Orga is webbed up and unable to move. This episode is pretty funny and entertaining, and it brings Mothra back. Alright, so episode 47, we are back with the news channel, Monsters in the Afternoon. Their guest of the day is King Kong. He apparently is the new King of the Monsters, or King of Monster Island, I guess, of the monster, I don't know. Because he showed that tape to Fire Rodan, and Godzilla absorbed his energy, causing a slow death for him, even though Godzilla chose to bang Mothra. So speaking from Kong's logic, it was suicide. Or it was Rodan that killed him, speaking from Kong's logic. Or it was Manila because he chose to record it, speaking from Kong's logic. But Godzilla, he shows up on the news and tells Kong he wants to fight on live TV. Not now though, in a few days. And Kong agrees. Gamera questions Godzilla's decision to fight Kong. And I honestly never understood the Godzilla versus King Kong debate. Godzilla would obviously win. This fucker is powered by nuclear energy and can fire atomic breath out of his mouth. He has fought 3-headed aliens. He's killed hundreds of monsters. His biggest feat, according to Google, is Godzilla in Hell. And according to Google, he is a multiversal level entity in that comic. Kong's biggest feat, according to Google, is surviving and navigating the Hollow Earth gravity inversion. The strongest version of King Kong is Monsterverse Kong. The strongest version of Godzilla is Godzilla in Hell. So Godzilla would win. Anyways, Godzilla says he'll definitely win because of his new energy. This episode is really funny and is entertaining. Alright, so this episode 48, this episode starts with Godzilla sleeping in bed. But Gamera wakes him up so they can go to G-Fest. When they get there, they set up a panel and, well, nobody shows up. And later, Gamera gets Godzilla a gift. 2 new baby Godzillas. And they watch some cosplayers and then they leave. And after they leave, Gamera shows his gifts. 2 new sons. And Godzilla is obviously, he's annoyed. This episode is funny filler, 8 out of 10. Alright, so in episode 49, this episode is a rap by King Caesar. Not Caesar King, yeah, dumb fuck. Rodan, he joins the rap. This episode is not important, it's just filler. Alright, so episode 50. This episode starts with King Ghidorah absolutely plowing Mothra in the fucking punani.
Is this nigga serious?
Now I think about it, does King Ghidorah have 3 dicks?
Is this?
Yeah, whatever. But King Ghidorah stops because it just doesn't feel right, because his kind and Mothra's kind have been at war for like millennia. Anyways, back to the modern day. Godzilla's stepson shows Godzilla the cocoon that Mothra's in. Orga's there, webbed up, and Orga tells Godzilla that Kaiser is planning an attack on Monster Island. Meanwhile, with Kaiser has hired Space Godzilla, Gigan, Megalon, and an Overwatch player. Meanwhile, Manila is plucking Mechagodzilla's head into a power outlet. Mechagodzilla tells Manila that he needs to build a robot. I don't got nothing to say to add on to that. Meanwhile, Godzilla was about to leave for his rematch with King Kong, but his friends stop him before he could leave because of the incoming attack on Monster Island. So Godzilla gives a speech and decides to defend Monster Island instead of going for his rematch with Kong. That's a mature decision, I'm not gonna lie. Back with Manila, he's building a fucking robot. Back with Godzilla, he's standing with his friends, staring down Kaiser and his lackeys. Godzilla shoots fire at Kaiser, sending him flying. Fucking hell! Sending him flying back. King Caesar punches the average Hazbin Hotel fan. Gamera does a shell spin, and it does nothing. And Megalon jumps him. Space Godzilla fires his beam at Rodan, knocking him over. Jet Jaguar is fighting Gigan. Clanker Godzilla fires a beam at King Caesar. Batra fires a beam at Baragon and knocks him over. But Godzilla shoots fire at Batra, knocking him over. Godzilla's stepson shoots fire at Batra, but misses. Batra fires a beam at his penis. Kaiser bitch slaps King Caesar and knocks him over. Godzilla is getting closer to exploding, but Manila, he shows up with his robot and raises absolute fucking hell and fucks shit up for the enemy team. But the robot gets destroyed by Batra. Godzilla tells Manila to shoot fire his way. Mothra then shows up and uses her wind power to knock him over. She picks Kaiser up and drops him from the sky. But Kaiser jumps her.
Defeat Kaiser! Oh, fuck.
Godzilla tells Rodan to drop him on Kaiser. Rodan does so, and Mothra and Rodan escape the explosion. Godzilla has given his life for his friends. But then he wakes up in Limbo, and he sees Mr. Fantastic, King Ghidorah, and Destroyer. King Ghidorah tells him that the Kaiser they killed was actually a Zilliant. Godzilla can only come back to life if he beats Lord Blundergosh in beer pong. This episode was very long but enjoyable. It was funny and shit like that, so 10 out of 10.
Is that dick good? Yes, kid. How good is that dick? Oh, how good is my... It has my... Exactly. It has it.